Was your intention to go kill him today? Yes or no?
Yeah.
A startling revelation midway through a police interview when a Virginia man admits he set his romantic rival on fire.
I threw a bucket of gasoline on, and that was because he had sex with my wife.
We're taking you inside the interrogation room for the shocking case.
He was probably terrified.
And later, hearing from the defendant's very own attorney.
It's not just this simple, he's upset, so he's, deranged or something, set this man on fire. There was a lot of evidence that I would say is mitigating.
The fires of love taking on a whole new meaning in this case when a jealous husband admits to setting his wife's alleged side piece ablaze after a lover's quarrel.
I was saying to her, I didn't understand how to love you properly. And it was just rejected and I just lost my cool. My wife had an affair with pushing myself on fire.
Was your intention to go kill him today? Yes or no? Yeah. One word. That is the entire case. A man sits in a police interrogation room in Danville, Virginia. He has been read his Miranda rights. He has waived them. And when the detective asks if he meant to end a life, he does not blink. He does not explain. He says, yeah. But the confession is not what makes this case remarkable. It is what happened before the confession. 10 months of silence, 10 months of suspicion, 10 months of waiting. And then, on July 30th, 2025, the waiting ended.
When detectives questioned Shotsy about what led up to the incident, he pointed to a conversation with Mary Alice.
Me and my wife had a conversation today on the phone, and I was basically freaking out all night, and then we had a bad conversation.
What was the conversation about?
I just need to.
Yeah.
No, you're good. The conversation was like, I feel like I'm repeating myself. Like, she said that I didn't love her, otherwise I wouldn't have made some mistakes that I made. I had a pornography addiction. And pornography addiction. Okay. It made her feel like she wasn't enough, or like she wasn't enough. And then me and her had pretty much PTSD, like pretty bad. And I was saying to her, I didn't understand how to love you properly.
Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you are subscribed to Trial Theory Unsealed, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Think of this case as a fuse, not the fire. The fire was instant and catastrophic. The fuse was slow. It burned for 10 months, and the law has a name for that stretch of time, cooling off period. That phrase will decide whether this is murder or something the law treats as less. That phrase is the entire battle.
So the issue that we had there was he was facing 3 charges originally when we started the case, and it was aggravated malicious wounding, which is, a lot of people think, well, why didn't they just have attempted murder? Well, in Virginia, we have a charge that's called aggravated malicious wounding. And actually, it's higher on the totem pole than even attempted murder. But the Commonwealth charged aggravated malicious wounding, attempted murder, and then breaking into a residence with a deadly weapon with the intent to obviously do harm to this man. And we thought that the real issue in the case was that there wasn't necessarily a breaking and entering. This occurred during the day. And then once I got into it, I found out that it's not just this simple, he's upset, so he's, deranged or something, set this man on fire. There was a lot of evidence that I would say is mitigating in the fact that there was a relationship, and it came out in the record, there was a relationship between Mr. Buck Hayes' wife and the alleged victim in the case.
So, okay, you said mitigating factor because this is something everybody was clicking on the headlines about, chatting on TikTok, whatever it may be. They're all talking about, okay, this man found out his wife was having an affair. He set him on fire. That's kind of the big headline here. So do you think that is a mitigating factor, the fact or the allegation that there was an affair or love triangle going on?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that if we would have, obviously we came to a plea agreement in the case, but I think if we would have tried the case, I think that would have been the crux of our arguments moving forward. Now, the issue is, and yes, it's a huge factor in this case because there's a thing called heat of passion, and any first-year law student probably encounters that. And the typical scenario is much like this, where husband comes in, finds another man in bed with his wife, having sex, and then the husband loses it, hurts the gentleman, kills him, whatever, and but he did it out of heat of passion. Well, the issue with heat of passion in every state, but especially in Virginia, the issue with heat of passion is, was there any type of cooling off period? Was there any delay in the time of finding this issue and then acting out upon it? And in our case, that was our burden. And that was the one thing that was going to be tough at trial is that there was a significant amount of time between when he found out about this alleged affair and how it was prompted and gone on until the act was committed. And so that was our issue. We certainly would have been arguing heat of passion, but we understand that in the reality of the trial, and certainly the jury could have went either way.
The public record shows that Shotsy Michael Buck Hayes believed his wife, Mary Alice, was involved with Lee Vogler. Vogler was not an anonymous man. He was the youngest person ever elected to Danville City Council at age 24. He ran on community building, he supported local businesses, he was a public face. And according to Buck Hayes, that public face was destroying his private
City
life.
Council. According to his profile on the city's website, Lee was actually the youngest person ever elected to the Danville City Council when he was only 24 years old. He's served as a councilman for more than a decade now, running on a platform of community building, supporting local businesses, and bringing more jobs to the area. Lee's resume is impressive, to say the very least, but according to one-time Danville resident Shotsy Michael Buck Hayes, Lee was involved with more than just city council work. It's unclear how exactly the alleged relationship began between Lee and Shotsy's wife, Mary Alice, or how far it actually went. Shotsy told detectives he believed the affair started around September 2024, and that about 10 months later, Mary Alice filed for divorce.
On the day of the attack, Buck Hayes went to a gas station. He bought $3 worth of gasoline. He poured it into a bucket. Then he added something else. Styrofoam. Detectives asked him why. His answer is on the record. He thought it would make the fire burn longer.
And here's where things go from bad to worse. Shotsy admits he went to extra lengths to make sure the fire burned.
Can I ask a quick question? Two questions. There's like a goo where that bucket or something was. Did you put like an accelerant, like napalm or something in that bucket?
A bit of styrofoam.
Put styrofoam in it? Why?
Because I just thought that would make it burn longer.
Yeah, make it burn longer. So like that melted goo stuff that's there, it's like styrofoam.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of that was because you thought they would make the fire burn longer?
Yeah.
Shotsy is ultimately charged with attempted murder, and based on his police interview, it was warranted.
Shotsy, the biggest thing that, I'm trying to understand is why you tried to kill him today, and you told me that. Was your intention to go kill him today, yes or no?
Yeah.
You went to go kill Mr. Vogler today?
Yeah.
And just to clarify, you went to go kill him because of his affair with your wife?
Shotsy Michael Buck Hayes eventually pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree murder and
that detail destroys any claim of sudden passion. You do not add an accelerant to gasoline if you are overcome by emotion. You do it because you want the fire to stick. You do it because you want the person to burn. That is engineering. That is premeditation. He drove to the Showcase magazine offices on Main Street where Vogler worked. He walked through the foyer. He paced. And when the door opened, he threw the bucket. The fire caught instantly. Vogler ran. Buck Hayes chased him. Witnesses captured the scene on video. A man engulfed in flames. A man running for his life.
So later that day, July 30th, 2025, Shotsy went to a local gas station and made a purchase.
And so what I did was there's a pile of rice in the basement at the end of the basement next to my bed, because I had the rice in a bucket, and I poured the rice into a paper bag, and I went and I bought $3 gasoline.
No one could have expected what happened next. That's actual video of Lee Vogler set on fire. It's so graphic that we had to blur it out, but you can hear the person on the recording say, "Oh my God." Oh my God. Witnesses immediately called for help, and first responders rushed to the scene.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Hands up! Lay out on the ground. Behind your back. Both of them. He still smells like gas. This way, 377 suspect in custody.
He was probably terrified. That is how Buck Hayes described the man he had just set on fire. A city councilman, a public servant, a human being, reduced to a body fleeing an inferno.
Shotsy says he was triggered by a phone conversation he shared with Mary Alice earlier that day, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. After buying some gasoline, he went straight to Lee's place of work, the Showcase magazine offices on Danville's main street.
Okay, so when you came into the office, can you tell me just what happened when you went in there?
I walked through the office, not the office, into the foyer, and I paced, and my heart was pumping. And he opened the door, and I just threw it.
Where did you have the gasoline in?
The bucket.
Just above the
Bucket in my car.
Okay, bucket in your car. And you just threw it on him.
Yeah.
Then what happened from there?
I just chased him.
He ran out. You threw it on him. He runs out of
He
you.
ran through the building, and I chased after him, and then I just lit his shirt on fire.
Okay, where did that happen at?
That happened on the street.
Okay, on the street. So as soon as he opened the door, describe what did he look like?
Like, he looked like Lee Vogler. I don't know what.
Did he look happy?
Oh no, he was so shocked to see me.
So he looked, would you call it shocked, scared? What would be the best way?
He was probably terrified. I told your partner, like, the thing is he was infiltrating my family for a long time. He knew that I was upset.
And
Lee Vogler survived. That is the only reason this is not a murder case. He sustained second and third degree burns over 60% of his body. Burn shock, septic shock, burned lungs from smoke inhalation. Months at the Duke University Burn Center. He eventually returned to his counsel seat. He wears long sleeves now. The scars remain. The defense tried to argue heat of passion.
Thank you for having me, Sierra. I really appreciate it. I can tell you that it's definitely memorable.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's start with the very beginning, right? Like, you're just your normal, everyday attorney doing your job, whatever, and all of a sudden you get a call that, I don't know, you're going to be representing this guy, whatever happens. What are your first inclinations, your first thoughts when you hear about this case?
Well, actually, when I came into the case, it was a little bit different in that I don't do much court-appointed work, and this was a court-appointed case. And a former associate of mine actually got the case, Mr. Ed Lovato, very good lawyer. And it was pretty complicated, some pretty complicated issues. And we talked back and forth. And basically decided to file a motion for me to come in and assist in the matter.
A legal doctrine that reduces culpability when a person acts in the immediate aftermath of discovering betrayal. But heat of passion requires immediacy. It requires a spontaneous eruption. Buck Hayes had 10 months. He had time to buy gasoline, time to dissolve styrofoam, time to drive across town, time to walk through the door. That is not heat of passion. That is a sequence. The defense filed motions for competency evaluation. Not guilty by reason of insanity, diminished capacity. All three were denied by the evaluating professionals. The mental health narrative did not hold.
Yes. So, and I think that it did come out in some of the evidence that was testified to, but I think that there was a basically competing timelines and competing evidence when it came to when this affair actually started, how he caught it. Because I think that the evidence showed that the councilman and his wife were certainly friends with Mr. Buck Hayes and his wife, and they hung out for quite a large period of time. And our client testified that where he really had an issue was one time his wife went to the restroom while they were at a restaurant somewhere, and he followed her back because she wasn't back in a certain period of time, and caught the alleged victim and Mary Alice Hayes, who was Mr. Buck Hayes' wife at the time, in some sort of embrace or some sort of loving gesture towards each other. And so that obviously put him in a paranoid state. And then from there, I think it just kind of went downhill. She asked for a divorce, and certainly the evidence of the two of them being together was certainly prominent after that.
I mean, I do feel for someone who would later find out that their wife, husband, whoever your significant other is cheating on you. That's hard. I mean, my heart goes out to anybody who has to deal with that. That's tricky, right? But does it equate setting someone on fire? I mean, would that be really tricky if you guys took this to jury trial to have to say, okay, yeah, on one hand, being cheated on is terrible and awful, but also being set on fire? I mean, does one kind of equate the other? What would you do at trial for all that?
Well, what you're asking there is certainly accurate. And what you're asking is much like self-defense. Heat of passion is we call it a legal excuse. Self-defense is legal justification. And just because you may have one of those defenses, or you may have certain mitigating evidence like that, did you exceed the scope of that? And I think even if...
What held instead was the recorded confession, the detail about the styrofoam, the direct answer to the direct question. Yeah. In June of 2026, Shotsy Michael Buck Hayes pleaded guilty to aggravated malicious wounding and attempted first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 35 years for the malicious wounding and another 10 years for the attempted murder. 45 years total.
Well, and this was part of the record at sentencing as well, so I'm not divulging anything. Yeah. And you can look in the filings, but we did file motions for competency evaluation, not guilty by reason of insanity evaluation, as well as we filed a motion for a diminished capacity evaluation, which is fairly new in Virginia.
So what is that then, the diminished capacity?
It basically says because of a mental health issue or autism or something along that range, that you didn't have the capacity basically to understand the gravity of what you were doing. It doesn't completely exonerate necessarily a defendant, but it allows the jury to understand that this is a person with diminished capacity. But we were denied all three of those motions. And I wouldn't say denied by the court. We just didn't get an evaluation that came back and said, yeah, I can get on the stand and testify that he was certainly under one of these three categories of defendant.
It sounds to me like you did exactly the job of a defense attorney, going down all of these routes, testing his background, ordering maybe a competency exam, all the things of the like. It seems like you're very well versed in the case. However, it didn't end up in the jury trial. Your client ended up taking a plea deal. Can you talk a bit about what those discussions were like or why he decided to go that route?
Sure. And I can, we kind of, obviously this is part of record too, but we were right up probably within a couple of weeks of trial. And we had subpoenaed, or the court had subpoenaed over 200 jurors, which is a lot for that little area. And it's probably one of the biggest cases they've had there in quite some time. But, we were on the eve of trial, so to speak, a couple of weeks before, and we talked about the pros and cons of the case and trying it before a jury. The issue is trying it directly to a jury and even asking for what we call jury sentencing, which means that the jury actually decides the sentence. What our concern is if he was convicted as charged, the jury couldn't go under 42 years. It would have been 20 and 20 on the charges and another 2 on the other offense, the attempted murder. So it started at 42 years. The judge wasn't going to go below that. I mean, he could, but if a jury sentenced you to 42 years and that's the lowest they can go, then that would have been an issue. So ultimately, and our client absolutely never said, I didn't do this. It was just an excuse or mitigation towards this. So we spoke with the Commonwealth and we told the prosecutor in this case, listen, the issue we really have with the charges as charged is that, this breaking and entering, this occurred in the middle of the day. And while certainly the law would support, or probable cause, meaning the lowest level, to support bringing the charge, I don't think that's really one that you really want to base your case on. And so ultimately, our client decided to accept responsibility for what he really did do, which was the aggravated malicious wounding. And again, we thought it was probably more malicious. But
in Virginia, he will serve 85% of that before any eligibility for parole. The judge also ordered 0 contact with Lee Vogler for the rest of his life. The divorce from Mary Alice was finalized. The marriage that supposedly started all of this is now a closed file.
In June 2026, he was sentenced to 35 years in prison for malicious wounding and another 10 years for attempted first-degree murder. He's also been ordered to have 0 contact with Lee Vogler for the rest of time and has officially since divorced his wife. Wow, a lot happening in this case. We talked to you, our viewer, through the facts, but I want to speak to someone who was right there involved in all of it. We're joined now by Shotsy's very own attorney, Matt Peck.
But here is the question that remains. If a man had not added styrofoam to gasoline, would this have been a different case? And if a jury had heard the full weight of that cooling off period, would heat of passion have survived even 1 hour of deliberation? That is the ticking clock of this entire story. Not the seconds between the throw and the flames, the months between the wound and the weapon. Cooling off period. That phrase decides whether a man is a killer or merely a broken husband. And in this case, the evidence points one way: deliberate, premeditated, engineered.
They were always going to come in for sentencing, whether it was in front of a jury or whether it was in front of the judge. And our issue was, I saw this as, if he's convicted, I don't care if it's a jury or the judge, I really feel like that it's going to be a life sentence, because when you read the facts and you look at it, it's horrible. I mean, a lot of states call this torture, what was done. And so, we decided, and our client decided for himself, that he wanted to accept responsibility and take his case before the judge. And ultimately, the judge did give him life, but suspended all of it but 40 years. So he has an active 40-year sentence. And in Virginia, he's going to serve 85% of that. And he'll be at least eligible for geriatric
The
parole.
publicly available document you should look for is the sentencing order from the Danville Circuit Court. It contains the final charges, the active sentences, and the no contact provision. Read it and ask yourself one question. Does the sentence match the intent expressed in that interrogation room? If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of how legal doctrine meets real evidence, like this video. Share it with someone who needs to see how the system actually works. Subscribe to Trial Theory Unsealed and turn on notifications so you never miss an unsealed document. We do not just cover the story, We follow the evidence.